Hey there, nerds! Welcome back to another episode of Two Nerdy Dads. With me, as always, is Jason Applegate. Say hey, Jason.
Hey, everybody.
And this week, as this is actually, as we're filming the very last day of 2014, we're going to do sort of a look back year in review. But first, we have to talk about Christmas.
That's right. So hopefully everybody had a good holiday season, good Christmas season. I know we had a good one. How about you, Jimmy? How did yours go?
Yes, it went really good. Santa was really good for the kids. And I've got a new Call of Duty game, so I can go kill people.
Ooh.
So it was very good.
Very cool, very cool. I was just going to ask, what was your favorite gift that you got?
Well, to be honest, I really do enjoy Call of Duty. I like going on and one more times than not getting my butt kicked, but also releasing some aggression and killing people. But it was definitely a Funko Pop vinyl that my daughter got me. I was floored, taken by surprise. She got me a big Macintosh My Little Pony Pop vinyl. It was pretty
awesome.
cool. I was very touched, and she was so excited to give it to me, and that's special.
That is very, very cool. I think my favorite gifts were I got a new office chair and a new briefcase for my new job, so those were both pretty nice. But to go along with the kids' gifts, like you were talking about, my son got me Gamora from the Marvel action figures, she's really hard to find. So he was pretty proud of himself for being able to find that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. How about your kids? What were your kids' highlights? What did you brighten their morning with?
Well, Santa gave him the big gifts, and that was an iPad Mini Air. Sorry, I sound like an old man. I don't know what it is, but it's the miniature version of the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And got that for my son James, and my daughter. We got her a 3DS XL. So they were both thrilled with the electronics. We've had to limit their time, which we always do, but limit their time because they've been wanting to play that nonstop. But how about you and your kiddos?
Very cool. Yeah, my son, if you haven't picked up on this through our previous broadcast, is a huge Doctor Who fan. So his grandparents actually got him the TARDIS, the inside of the TARDIS, the control center. So he actually just finished putting it together last night and brought us down to take a look at it. And it's pretty cool. They're basically Lego style.
Is it bigger on the inside?
It is bigger on the inside, yes. So, and it was quite an ordeal. It took him, 2 days to put it together. So it was a pretty cool thing. And trying to think, what was one of Sabrina's favorites? She likes everything. She's so easy to please. But she got a lot of craft things. She loves crafting stuff. So she got a little sewing machine that she's excited to work on. In fact, she's offered to help me with costumes for the shows that I direct and stuff too. So we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah. Child labor. Let's get it going here. So those were the highlights in the Applegate household. Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. Now, did you go sledding? Where in the state of Nevada did you go sledding?
Well, it's actually very cool. Yes, we did go sledding yesterday. Usually we try and do it on Christmas Eve, but Allison had to work, so we didn't get that opportunity. But we drive maybe 30 minutes to Mount Charleston, and elevation gets up over 8,000 feet. And it's been cold enough, so there actually is a ski resort up there. But we went up there. We went sledding, and let's just say that I did not have boots prepared because it had obviously snowed at one point, melted, but then froze. So the underlayer was all ice.
Ooh.
And I was slipping left and right, cracked an elbow, cracked a butt, cracked my knee. Oh my goodness, I am very, very sore today. But yes, we did go sledding.
That's awesome. Well, I have to say that I'm jealous because up here in Michigan, we have not had a hardcore snow, which after last winter actually isn't bad because we got so much snow last winter. It was ridiculous. It was in a row, just like boom, 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 boom. So this year, but we didn't have a white Christmas at all. And no snow to speak of to go sledding. So probably, we've got a couple months ahead of time, though. I bet we get dumped on once or twice. So, but just thought it was interesting. Here's Jimmy in Vegas in going sledding, and here I am in Michigan, the Great North, and nothing.
No. Taking odds here in Vegas, that wouldn't have been a good bet.
No, absolutely. Cool. Well, let's look back. This being, the last day of 2014. Let's look back in a couple of nerdy categories, and you and I decided to talk about some of what we thought were the best and worst of 2014. So we're going to talk comics, movies, and television, because that's what we talk about most. And go with each of these. Let's start with comics, and I'll go ahead and start with the best and worst from my point of view. And the best for me, no surprise with this first one, is She-Hulk by Charles Soule. Loved that series. Loved the writing. Just Charles is he's a litigator as well, so you can kind of tell that. And really, what I thought was awesome about it was the legal conflicts, and that part of the storyline was just as engaging, if not more engaging, than the superheroics that She-Hulk underwent. So that was one of my favorites in the mainstream, so it shouldn't be any surprise. The second is an Image book called Lazarus, which I believe just started in 2014. Love that series. Greg Rucka and Michael Lark do that one. And it is a post-apocalyptic kind of story where you have the world is being controlled by families. So you have a sort of like, kind of think of it as like mafia families almost, but there's a sort of, it also reminds me of the what are they, Shogun in Japan, where they had samurais, because each family has what's called a Lazarus, which is this basically genetically enhanced human being who is their sort of bodyguard. They're heavy, takes care of the dirty work, that kind of a person. The Luca Brasi, if you will. So it reminded me both of like Godfather type of a spiel, but also the Shogun from Japan as well. So I love it. I think it's brilliantly written. It's got great political satire, and it has some interesting family dynamics. And the lead character, her name is Forever. She is she's a Lazarus, and she's sort of questioning whether what she does is right or not. She questions her relationship to the family because the head of the family he refers to her as his daughter, but she's not sure she really is his daughter. Are they using her? That kind of a thing. And then the most recent storyline is she's developed a sort of romantic relationship with another Lazarus from a different family, and that's going to interestingly cause some conflict and so forth. And it's really interesting. It's a good read. So if you haven't given it a chance, I know you can get the trade paperback now for the first 5 or 6 issues. I recommend that. The worst for me was tough because I haven't, if something's bad, I just drop it. Like, I don't have the time to just, read things and read them for how bad they are, I guess is a way to phrase it. But for me, and we've talked about this before, I just was thinking back on 2014, the death of Wolverine. It just was sort of, it's cliche. It was overhyped. You even had, all the crazy covers and alternate, variant covers and all that stuff. And it just was sort of bleh. I just wasn't a fan of it. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those. I haven't read some of those, but the big one that I agree with you on is Lazarus. I think that comic from Image is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Really doesn't have any low points. It's the intrigue that goes on with the family is amazing, with the brothers and sisters, really, and the father, the patriarch, sort of. I almost get that he's manipulating everybody, but they never come out and say it. It's just more and more intrigue. I also included Batman. I know that's sort of, oh yeah, everybody reads Batman. It's like, yeah, they do, because Scott Snyder is amazing. Mm-hmm. The storylines he is coming up with, almost back to back to back. This year we saw 0 Year, which was basically the creation of Batman, meaning Bruce Wayne becoming the hero, and a huge appearance by the Riddler, which was cool. there's not many really good Riddler stories, so that was really cool to see the Riddler take the forefront. And then right now, as we speak, he's back to going with the Joker. And I thought Death of the Family was a great story arc for him. So to see what the Joker's going to do now, and the Joker seems really serious and pissed off, so we'll see where that goes. I was also thrilled that Valiant Comics was able to bring back Christopher Priest and M.D. Bright for Quantum and Woody, for Q2, the Return of Quantum and Woody. The story was a little confusing at first, but that was the point because they were laying it across all, I think, 5 comics. It's not quite done yet. So letting it go and reading it and allowing the story to develop is just fantastic. I really, really love Christopher Priest's writing with those characters. It's just a phenomenal story. I love it. I also really enjoyed from Valiant Comics Unity. Matt Kindt, just a phenomenal start to a superhero book. It's not a spoiler at this point because it's been out almost a year, but he created a story, a superhero team. Valiant published it, produced it, publicized it, made it a big event, and killed that team off in the very first book.
Wow.
So basically, the others, the people that were left behind, picked up the pieces and became the team that is Unity. And it was so cool the way it happened. Highly recommend it. I think Matt Kindt is one of the best writers in comics, and I think Valiant is just genius for basically pulling him and making him their own. So I recommend Unity. And then finally, Terminator Salvation, the final battle over at Dark Horse. J. Michael Straczynski just did a phenomenal job just turning the Terminator world on its ear just ever so slightly and redefining some of the things we already knew and showing it in a different way. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. I can't wait to see what they do next with Terminator in the Dark Horse comics. Fantastic stuff. And like you, I had a tough time with The Worst because, like you, it's not like a movie. I'm going to sit there and continue reading even though I hate it. So I had to go with Aquaman. And mainly because the drop-off from Jeff Johns' story arc to the current creative team, and I don't want to throw him under the bus, I don't want to be mean or anything like that, but the drop-off was really big, really noticeable. I think the highlight of Aquaman since the New 52 was the Thrones of Atlantis, just a phenomenal storyline, and then almost immediately we get a new creative team, and it's just not been as good, and that was disappointing. So it's not necessarily that it's the worst book ever, it's just disappointing to me.
Yeah, no, I like what you said about Snyder. I've seen several publications that have, put out top tens and things like that for the year, and Snyder's always been mentioned in each one of them. And I think he's doing other stuff too that's really cool outside of Batman. He did The Wake, which was a miniseries. I think it was 12 issues, or maybe it was 8, which was really good. I got all of those. And he did American Vampire, which I haven't caught up on, but I got the trade paperback for that. I really enjoyed the first story arc. And then the new series that he's just come out with, Witches, with a Y, W-Y-T-C-H-E-S. I got the first issue of that. Really enjoyed it. It is dark and really creepy in a way that I don't think anything out there is doing it. And I can't really explain what it's like. You just have to kind of read the first issue. I haven't caught up if there are more issues of it yet. If there aren't many. But I've read good things about how it's definitely one of the top new books of 2014. So good choices.
Yeah, completely agree. I think it's on issue 3. So you can definitely catch up on it. And it's got some fabulous artwork by Jock, an English artist. It really adds to the creepiness of what Scott Snyder's telling. And that dude is so prolific with his writing because he's also doing Batman Eternal, which is a weekly comic for DC. I don't know how this dude does it. He's amazing.
Yeah, he definitely has his hands in a lot of pots. That's for sure. I know that Batman Eternal, I started with that for a while, and then I had to drop off because it was every week, and I would fall so far behind that I just kind of got lost track of it. I'm sure at some point I'll jump back into it or get the trade paperbacks or something like that. Because you're right, Snyder doesn't seem to go wrong in many places. Let's go to movies. Best and worst. Why don't you start off this time with this one?
Sure. This is always a tough one because I love movies. I just love going to the movies. Unfortunately, I don't always get to go to the movies, as I've said several times. I've got a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old, and babysitters are hard to come by, so I don't always get to the theater. So one on my list here is a movie that I think was released last year, but I got to finally see it on home video. But my best would be Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I thought that movie was fantastic, the way it continued from Rise of the Planet of the Apes and even kept within the whole Planet of the Apes franchise going all the way back to 1968 with Charlton Heston. I think it's fantastic. Great movie. Caesar is a fantastic character. And this world that they're showing us, I can't wait to get more. I just can't wait to get more. So that's cool. And then Big Hero 6, Disney's first interpretation of a Marvel comic. I didn't know what it was. No clue. Went to the movie. Awesome. Loved it. I thought the storytelling was fantastic. Lots of ups and downs. I think Lasseter is doing a fantastic job with the animation that Disney's now releasing. You really don't know what's Pixar, what's Disney, because they're so good. Really enjoy Big Hero 6. I don't know how you can have a best of list without this one. Guardians of the Galaxy is just so fun, so amazing, and it's really hard to believe, and I'm one of those guys. Before it came out, we didn't know it was going to sink or swim. It might have been Marvel's biggest flop, first flop. We didn't know. And now to look back, it's like, there's no way. That movie's awesome. X-Men Days of Future Past. This is another one. I had very low expectations because I thought the X franchise has been dead since the second one released. And it really corrected a lot of mistakes. Now, I thought First Class was okay, but this one I thought upped the ante again and brought me back into this universe because I'm an X-Men guy. That's what I read from Marvel. I love it. So basically, with all the movies since the second one, I've been disappointed. This one really got me back in the game. I really enjoy it. I can't wait to see what they do with X-Men Apocalypse. And then finally, How to Train Your Dragon 2. I just think that world is so fun, so cute. I had no idea how they're going to come back and revisit it because How Do You Train Your Dragon? Well, they did that in the first one. What could they possibly do in the second one? They did it. It was fantastic. Some twists and turns that were really good, and even a very emotional moment that was good and not too heavy for the kids, but heavy enough, that the adults understood. And then my worst, Amazing Spider-Man. I have said many times, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is awful. Awful, awful, awful. So awful that it looks like Sony might be approaching Marvel to make all future Spider-Man movies. That's how bad Amazing Spider-Man 2. I hate that movie, and it's so sad because Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone did such a good job, but the movie is awful. The villains are pathetic. And then the movie that I talked about that I didn't get to see till this year is The Raid. Everybody was talking about this movie, a huge action movie. They were comparing it to the original Die Hard. Well, I finally saw it, and I thought it was not good at all. I don't know what people were talking about. Maybe I'm clueless. I don't know. But I thought The Raid was awful. I will not see The Raid 2 Redemption or whatever it's called because the first one was so bad. So, yeah. Anyway, that was my list. What about you, Jason?
Guardians of the Galaxy, totally agree. One of the most fun movies in all of 2014. Like I was saying, it's basically, I felt like with Winter Soldier, which I almost put on the list because I saw that on a lot of people's, and I really liked Captain America: Winter Soldier. I thought it was a good movie. But I thought that it started to take itself a little too seriously, and you didn't get that with Guardians. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek. It's just sort of fantastic. It's just fun from beginning to end. So that's why I chose that over Winter Soldier, which I also liked, mostly because Winter Soldier starts to really set the stage, I feel like, for all the rest of the Marvel movies that are coming, and you saw how it even went in and affected Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Excuse me. The other movie that I had to put on here was the Lego Movie. I loved the Lego Movie from beginning to end. Both of the movies I chose were Chris Pratt, so if there was a best of most enjoyable entertainer, it would be him. Because he's hilarious in this movie, and the writing's hilarious. The use of Morgan Freeman is hilarious. The Batman is the funniest. This frat boy type Batman was just a brilliant interpretation. All the other nods, like the invisible jet getting blown up, Green Lantern being someone that Superman doesn't want to hang out with, all that stuff was just brilliant, amusing. The Star Wars cameo was Like when that happened, I was like, no, they did not. Like it just was a total nerd's paradise where they everything that you hoped would be in a Lego movie was in the Lego movie. The only thing missing, well, no, they had. I was gonna say the only thing missing was Lord of the Rings, but they had Gandalf and they had Dumbledore's from from Harry Potter, which I loved that they did that little twist on his name. So really, they did everything that they could. Excited to see that they're going to do more of those. My worst was I don't even know why I saw this movie. Like I usually don't go and see comedies. I usually wait until they come out on Netflix or something like that because I feel like the cinematic experience you don't need for a comedy. So we must have seen this because it was a date night. We had the babysitter, and there was like nothing else showing. But A Million Ways to Die in the West was so stupid. It was terrible. It was like all the worst elements of Family Guy made into a movie. The only part that I liked about it was that it had Neil Patrick Harris as a villain, who had a fantastic mustache. So there's a lot of mustache humor in there. And he just was funny, and it seemed like he was just making stuff up as he was going, and that was enjoyable to watch him. But other than that, it just was just awful, just awful. So that would definitely get my worst, and it cracks me up how much you hate Amazing Spider-Man #2, because I don't mind that movie that much. I mean, the villains, I will totally agree with you, are the worst. Like they are on level with Spider-Man 3, with how bad that the villains are portrayed in that. You really don't get to care about Electro at all. And the Goblin, like they're like, here's this character that we just decide to throw in, and yeah, by the way, Peter Parker and he had a close relationship, so buy into that, please, and now start to wonder, why he's becoming, feel for him that he had a bad dad and everything like that, and you're just like, no. And then when he shows up with that ridiculous makeup in the end, the goblin, they goblin him out. He just was more laughable, almost as laughable as more laughable than the Blue Man Group Electro that they had going on. Which I don't know. I'm a fan of as much as it would absolutely not work in live action. I love the 1970s Electro with the huge lightning bolt mask. I just love it. I think it's fantastic, but it would absolutely not work. In a live film, but still, it was. I just loved Gwen Stacy, and maybe that's it. Maybe for me, it was just I was just rocking Gwen Stacy. Thought she was amazing as a character, and loved that they actually did what the comics did. But I can see your point on that one for sure. Let's go to TV. Go ahead.
TV, yes. What's your best and worst for that?
My best, and this was hard for me because I had to look back and think about all the stuff that I've watched, and I tried to pick stuff that was newer and that wasn't in like their 5th season or something like that. And so for me, it was Fargo. I really liked Fargo. If you haven't got a chance to see that, and I bet a lot of our listeners haven't seen Fargo because it kind of flew under the radar, I feel. But I rewatched the movie after I saw the pilot episode. And I was glad that I did because they tie in together. Where the movie left off, the series picks up kind of a little bit later. And it has the same dark, witty humor that Fargo, the movie, had. And it has wonderful acting in it. It does an excellent job of you rooting for these bad guys, basically. You have the main character whose wife is verbally abusive, everyone bullies him, and he finally loses it in a moment and kills his wife and is fumbling to cover up what he has done, and ends up roping in this hitman played by Billy Bob Thornton, who is amazing, and he's another guy that you root for because of just how awesome he is. Like, you're just like, this dude is like a BA. He is just awesome. But he's evil. I mean, he's a dark dude. And it's just fun. You also have one of the strongest female characters in all of television. the detective. And that stays true to the movie, too, because you had a similar instance where you had that, I can't remember who played her, but or the character's name even. But she was pregnant. One of the first scenes, she's at the crime scene and she has morning sickness, so she's like throwing up at the crime scene. And then just the setting in Minnesota in this, frozen tundra is pretty cool too. The other best that I have was True Detectives on HBO. I saw this on HBO Go, so I didn't see it as it was coming out. Whole new respect for Matthew McConaughey. Now, they always cast him as a Texan, which cracks me up because I think he just can't do accents. So they just change whatever about the character to make him from Texas. But he was phenomenal. Like the performance that he gave. And then I went and saw Dallas Buyers Club too after I'd watched True Detectives, and I was just like, yeah, this guy can act. Whereas before this, I just thought, Matthew McConaughey, he's a pretty face. Yeah, he can act, but he's going to get the same parts and blah blah blah. Not so. It's an amazing detective story. It's very dark. It's very HBO, but I think it's one of the best series maybe ever. I really enjoyed it. Worst for me, no surprise here, Gotham is on there. I have to admit, though, the last couple episodes have gotten quite a bit better, and I'm still going to just kind of hang on and see where this thing goes and see how it, ends up turning out. I saw it, though, Jimmy, on someone's top 10 I was like, how is that even in your top 10? That's just crazy to me. And the things that they wrote about it, I don't even remember what it was. I was like, no, and no. Something about the writing, and I'm just like, the writing is terrible. It's totally not believable. It's, got a lot of stilted dialogue. It just is cliche in a lot of ways. But it is starting to kind of get interesting. I'm going to hang out with it for a while longer.
Was that
I think the
president of the CW, was that his list?
It might have been. But it was the only thing that I want to that I've kind of hung on for was the Penguin storyline started to get interesting. I would just drop the mom thing. That part was just weird and annoying. But he and the Riddler. I really enjoy that the Riddler is like this forensics expert guy, and he's this socially awkward person who doesn't know when to stop, and I just think it's kind of a fun interpretation of the character. So I kind of want to see where that goes, if it goes anywhere. And the other one I threw on here, which I kind of wasn't sure because I've enjoyed it so far, was Constantine. But I put it on here because it has been disappointing. It started out pretty strong. I like the character of John Constantine. I think he has a lot of potential. But it's the other characters, the secondary characters, that are just not interesting at all. They don't do anything for you. And it's the plot isn't moving along quickly enough to where you're wondering what's going to happen next. It just feels like it's trying too hard, or it's, I don't know. Like when you're watching a good show, like say one that's been around for a while, Walking Dead or Breaking Bad, right? You end the episode ends, and you're like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like, or I want to see what happens next week, or I can't believe I have to wait a week until this comes out. And Constantine never has that, and I feel like it has the potential to have that, and it just doesn't.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. How about you? How about best and worst?
Well, my best would be, and some of these they have been on a while, but some of them they ended this year. Namely, Californication. I've liked that show from the beginning. It was on Showtime. Great show. Not for anybody under the age of 18. Really not for anybody under the age of 30, in my opinion. But it was a really good show, and I thought it ended perfect for Hank Moody. Just a great ending. I know a lot of people disagreed and they hated it, but I really thought it was perfect for him. Another one was Sons of Anarchy. I only got onto this show this year. Binge watched all of them and then caught the final episode. And man, Jax Teller went out in style the way he should, the way his dad did. It was perfect. All the episodes together just summed up a great story for a great character. I am so glad. I think it's Boom Studios has the rights for the comic books, so we will still see stories from there because I just want more, and I'm bummed that it's over. Another one that I caught, Justified. I really enjoy this, and again, I caught it this year. It's on FX, just like Sons of Anarchy. Timothy Olyphant, who I think is a great actor, plays the main character, and then Walton Goggins is sort of his antithesis in the show, and the way those two go back and forth after each other is phenomenal. I really enjoy that. And then I included two stalwarts, Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead, mainly because this past year they've upped their game, and I think The Walking Dead specifically gets a bad rap far too often. I'm not sure why. I don't know if people are like, well, it's not like the comic books. Like, I don't care. It's a good story. And to me, it really, not that it turned the corner, but where it was like, oh my God, they went there. When Rick was really on the verge of being killed, I can't remember the group that took him over. It was they were going to kill his son and Carl, and he just went and bit the neck of some dude who was going to do it. And you're like, yeah, he went there. He did everything he could to save his son. Mm-hmm. This is the awesome storytelling. So I really enjoy The Walking Dead. If you are one of those haters, get on board. Just watch it for fun. It's great stories. The new ones I really enjoy. Blackish. I think that comedy is hilarious. I just love the stories they tell, and Lawrence Fishburne just popping in here and there as grandpa. Hilarious. Sort of similar, but from an 80s perspective, the Goldbergs. Mm-hmm. I thoroughly enjoy this second season. It's hilarious to me that we get to see a lot of these things that we grew up with and them using them and loving these gadgets and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I remember those days. Those were awesome. And then Star Wars Rebels was a great way to continue the Star Wars franchise after Clone Wars. I thought Clone Wars was a great series. I was sad to see it go, but I think Rebels really picked it up and started well, and it's nice to see Disney run with their franchise now, so it's really cool. And then an oldie but goodie, and this is going to be the last season starting in 2015, Parks and Rec, going back to Chris Pratt. It's hard to believe that he can be this goofball Andy on the show, but then also be Star-Lord, and then also we're going to see him in Jurassic World. So talented. I'm glad that he's finally getting his due, but that whole show is just hilarious.
Yeah, can we get his personal trainer, please?
That one photo he clicks on over the summer, and you're like, that used to be Andy. What happened, man? He got really fit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, let's finish off the episode with looking back.
I gotta give you my worst.
Oh, you gotta give your worst. I'm sorry, I'm jumping on that. Sorry.
And I usually wouldn't care that much, but I hate this show, King of the Nerds. It should just be called King of the Weirdos because they're not real nerds. And I know for a fact because they have approached us every single year they're going to air an episode trying to recruit us for nerds. And the first year we fell for it. We had Brandon and Bobby go ahead and submit tapes, and they're normal nerds. They love a lot of nerdy stuff. But when you see the contestants that get on there, they're like, oh no, those aren't just nerds. Those are just straight out weirdos. So I can't stand the fact that they're trying to portray nerds in that way, and I hate King of the Nerds. And last but not least, my least favorite show all year, I hope I never have to watch it again, was the second meeting of the Browns versus the Bengals. First start for Johnny Manziel. What an awful, awful viewing experience. Back to you, Jason.
Yes. Well, my computer might die on us all of a sudden. So if it cuts out, you just close down the show for us. But we're gonna look back and look forward at 2014 and 2015 and kind of. I just died.
As Jason was saying, his computer died off. But just looking back at, you see everything that we enjoyed for 2014. Coming up in 2015, it is going to be a busy nerd year. I know for myself, I am looking forward to Star Wars. I know that's about a year away, but Star Wars, cannot wait. The Force Awakens. I'm excited to see what J.J. Abrams is going to do with that. Mad Max, Fury Road, waited a long time for this next Mad Max. I cannot wait to see it. George Miller back in the directing seat. That guy can do no wrong when it comes to action flicks. Love it. Jurassic World is coming out. Avengers 2. James Bond Spectre. Terminator Genesis, Batman versus Superman, Kung Fu Panda 3, which I wasn't really even aware of, and then the next Mission Impossible, Ant-Man, and then one of the ones I'm really looking forward to is a movie, but Daredevil on Netflix. I'm really excited to see what Netflix can do with the Marvel franchise. So far, Marvel has sort of tripped a little bit with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but they've picked themselves back up and really done well with that show. Now they're going to be on a new network where there really are no rules. They can do whatever they want. I can't wait to see how he has never gotten his proper due. Nothing against Ben Affleck in that first version, but I can't wait to see how they treat him with a miniseries. And I think it's 10 or 13 episodes. Not entirely sure, but they're going to have all that time, basically 10 hours, 13 hours, whatever, to tell a great story. I can't wait to see that. So much more coming up as well. We can't wait to see all the things coming out. Game of Thrones comes back in 2015. Can't wait to see more of that. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below. What were some of your best and worst of 2014, and what are you looking forward to in 2015? As always, check us out on nerdlocker.com, on YouTube at Nerdlocker or Two Nerdy Dads, on Instagram Nerdlocker, Facebook Nerdlocker, Twitter Nerdlocker, and have a nerdy rest of the year.